Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning into the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Eric Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. I really actually hope you're doing good because, man, this podcast that we're going to get into, we're going to be talking about not feeling good. We're going to talk about depression. We're going to talk about the diet's role, your diet's role in depression and suicide. And it's not going to be fun to talk about, but it's going to be very informal, especially if you've never been introduced to this idea of the gut-brain connection, especially the gut's role in depression, and of course, ultimately suicide, then you're in for quite a trip because this might be eye-opening, or you may just think it's all bullshit, call me crazy, and continue thinking however you think. But before we get into all that, I quickly want to say what's up to all the new listeners, or if you're a returning listener, thanks for making your way back. If you are a new listener, your first time here, or if you're returning and you haven't done this yet, make sure you take a hot second and hit the subscribe button right there in your podcast player. And then also make sure you go out there on the old social mediums and find me on all those great platforms. I'm on Facebook. Find the Holistic A-Hole Facebook page where I've got new content coming out just about every single day now with videos and posts and all kinds of drama. And then go on over to Twitter. Find me on Twitter at Holistic A-Hole and on Instagram at Holistic A-Hole. And if you enjoyed the episode, shoot me a line and leave a review on iTunes. Put a nice little thoughtful response or comment, and tell me what you think of the show. I hope it's good, and if it's not good, don't go to iTunes. So that's that. So let's talk about depression, and why am I even talking about this in the first place? I didn't plan on talking about this today. As of last week. But then, of course, I cracked open my old computer and find out that everybody's talking about people killing themselves. Everybody's talking about depression. This is on the old social mediums. Everyone's talking about depression, because there's been a rash of suicides plaguing the celebrity world. A lot of famous people are killing themselves, and just doesn't make sense, Even as I talk through this, it just doesn't make sense to me how not just being a celebrity, but being a person like Anthony Bourdain, for instance. I think the two big ones are Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade. And then I think there was another guy who was on like Modern Family or something, or one of those. He was on a few shows. I couldn't tell you who he is. Young kid, it looked like, which is also very sad. But the two big ones that I know of are Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain. But I'm going to use the example of someone like Anthony Bourdain for a second, just because that's who I'm most familiar with. Although I'm not really even that familiar with Anthony Bourdain. All I knew is that he had a show. I'm pretty sure I've watched it before in passing. Again, I haven't had a TV for years, so it's not like I regularly watched it, but if I was somewhere and it was on, or if I was in a hotel, yeah, I would watch it because it's just eyeball porn. It's a guy living all of our dreams, right? No matter what your dream is, whether it's to be a famous musician or a famous athlete or actor, or you just want to be, the greatest scientist ever, or you just want to live a happy, cozy life, whatever it is, you would look at a guy like Anthony Bourdain who gets to travel the world and eat food in all these different countries. And not just food, but like the best food. The best food that that place was known for. And had interesting conversations and got to meet so many interesting people, and then of course became an A-lister and, would get to go to all the big events, and you have to imagine probably had a good amount of money and was able to, just kind of do whatever they want. and people watched this in record numbers. He had a hit TV show that was on for years, and then in syndication for years, and the dude was doing more than okay. On top of the fact that his actual job was the thing that most of us would kill to have. If you're sitting in an office for 50, 60 hours a week in a shirt and tie, just barely making your bills and buried in debt, and you're in an unhappy marriage and you have kids who stink, looking at a guy like Anthony Bourdain, that was the equivalent of porn. Just watching this guy eat food and live just dreams that are beyond your wildest imagination. He's doing all that. And then still, somehow, a guy like that was not happy. Who knows what he was dealing with? I don't know. Maybe he was happy. Maybe he just got to a point and he was like, I've done it all. There's nothing more I can do. What's the point of living if there's nothing more I can do? But I highly doubt that was the case. I can only imagine he was suffering through a lot of pain, probably experienced some sort of trauma early on in his life. And let's be real, a lot of very successful people do come from a traumatic background, especially like professional athletes. A lot of them come from, just dire, poverty and real bad family situations, a lot of it involving, welfare and homelessness and death and, drugs and all kinds of stuff, man. Actors, actresses, writers, you name the creative thing or athletic thing, and chances are these people have been through quite a bit of, early trauma. But then you look at a guy like Anthony Bourdain, maybe he was dealing with the same thing. Who knows? And so, what this turned into on Main Street in my world was basically people going back and forth online about suicide and about depression. And this is the world we live in now. People start arguing with each other in public about suicide and depression. There was no conversation happening. I don't even know what the conversation is that you can have about suicide and depression. Because to me, if you commit suicide, then there was no conversation that you could have that could talk you out of that. There was no conversation that, you did or didn't have. You aim to accomplish something, in this case, ending your life, and you did it. And then that was it. If you kill yourself, chances are your desire to do that was much greater than your desire to not do that. And basically what the conversation turned into online was people talking about how, people who don't understand depression or suicide don't know what it's like and can't talk about suicide. But then the people who supposedly have thought about suicide are the ones trying to dictate the conversation. But you didn't even commit suicide. It's very easy. I could think about right now about killing myself. I don't. I never have. Not once have ever thought about killing myself. So maybe I'm coming at this from a completely naive standpoint. At the same time, I live in the same world as everybody else does. We all have our own specific scenarios, and all of us are dealing with all kinds of different situations. I totally understand that. I totally empathize with that and respect that. On the other hand, you have the means to not end your life. You have the means to not even be depressed. It's a total mental thing. We talk about mental health. What is the mental health conversation in this country? The mental health conversation in this country is, are you depressed? Are you suffering from some kind of mental disease or disorder? Go see a psychiatrist, talk to them, or is it a psychiatrist or psychologist? One of the two. One of the two you talk to, you talk to both of them, and then one of them prescribes pills, prescribes medication. That's the conversation. Talk to somebody that person's professional opinion is to put you on a medication that can hijack the chemicals in your brain and supposedly fix them so that you don't think you don't have this depressive nature or even anxiety. Of course, anxiety's there too. I get that. But at the same time, what this conversation, I'm doing air quotes here, this quote-unquote conversation lacks is a true understanding of the nutritional aspects of mental disease, of mental health, of depression, of suicidal thoughts and tendencies. We don't talk about that. And if you talk about that, people call you a quack. People say that you're being unreasonable, that you're not qualified to have this. Why? Because I don't throw out the suicide hotline phone number, because my answer to something like depression isn't as surface level as saying, go get help. What help? Help. Like what help? Like a doctor who went to school for 6, 7, 8 years to get certified so that they can listen to your problems and then tell you which medication or medications you should go on. That's what they mean when they say help. Nobody talks about, oh, you're depressed? Well, look at all this science that shows the link between high inflammatory diets, bad diets, lack of good, whole, nutritious food, and chemical imbalances in the brain, or depressive symptoms, or even suicide. Nobody talks about that. And the studies are there. The science is more than there. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass to be a holistic a-hole. I looked at a lot of the studies before I even got on this, and I'm going to tell you about them. Of the ones I found. Now, granted, I didn't cherry pick. I kind of lazy picked, This is how many studies there are out there that you can just pull up on Google. You can go on PubMed or GreenMed Info or whatever your, scientific study database is. For most people, it's Google, and you could just Google these studies. I'm going to put them in the show notes on the podcast feed, and you can go look at them yourself. You can go on to nutritionfacts.org and type in mental health in the top box, and then you're going to see a whole lineup of videos that quote not just the studies I'm talking about, but even more studies that link all of these different micronutrients and their effects to mental health. Okay, so again, if you're sitting there listening to this and your eyes are rolling in the back of your head like, oh God, here comes some bullshit, I would encourage you especially not to turn this off, because I'm going to go through a bunch of these here and at least keep your mind open, okay? I could just have made this podcast 2 minutes long, said, what's up? Hey, here's the thing about depression, and then left you the suicide hotline. But that would be a complete disservice to you a-holes. So let's go through and talk about the actual effects of diet on depression and mental health. So without a doubt, the biggest dietary factor in depression and mental health is inflammation, because you can actually measure inflammation in the body. You measure it by the amount of C-reactive protein. Okay, basically these are proteins that are in the blood that basically damage your cells. They eat away at you at the DNA level. This is these are like oxidative stress, right? You hear about antioxidants. Well, oxidative stress it comes from free radicals, which are associated with C-reactive protein. These free radicals essentially just eat away at your cells. They eat away at your DNA. They change all of these. They basically change the way your cells react, okay? And so, if you're looking at like a cellular level, 100% inflammation is affecting you at the cellular level. And since your body is basically just a giant fucking structure made up of cells, you're gonna need your cells to be in better condition to fight off something like inflammation, okay? So basically, depression, okay, and this is in one study, that depression is basically an inflammatory response against disease. So this study, what they're saying is that inflammation is a response. Basically, inflammation is like when you get sick. Okay, that's inflammation. Essentially what your immune system is doing is it's fighting off the flu. And what happens to you on the outside? You feel like shit. You got a headache. You're sweating. You just generally feel crappy. Your throat hurts. Whatever it is, okay? Same thing with inflammation, okay? Basically, what your body's doing is your body is fighting disease, and on the outside, you feel bad. So this study is saying that much in the same way, like, for instance, a honeybees and mole rats are very sociable animals, but when they get sick, when they get disease, what they actually do is they leave their communities, and they essentially go kill themselves. Because the response is they don't want to infect other people in the tribe because, again, they're a communal organism. So their response is, well, I'll go kill myself, and that will spare the group, okay? That's a very extreme example. I'm very aware. But this is, this is an interesting angle to this inflammation debate, okay? Now, inflammation was actually discovered, or the link between inflammation and health was discovered back in the 1800s by Julius Wagner Jauregg, who was a psychologist who actually is the only psychologist to win the Nobel Prize in 1927 for this exact discovery, the link between health and inflammation, okay? Before that, they just thought, oh my God, the devil's in you. That's why you're sneezing. That's why we say God bless you, because we thought the devil was making us sneeze, right? No, it's actually health and nutrition related, okay? They also find that C-reactive protein is directly tied to mood, and the higher your inflammation is, the higher your depression. Okay, this was actually specifically studied in a study that was called the Inflammatory Dietary Pattern and Risk of Depression Among Women. So what this study did is they followed 43,000 women. I don't know over how long. It was several years at least, I think. And basically what they find is that that the women who had the higher inflammatory diet, and by inflammatory diet, what I mean was their diet consisted of high amounts of soda, refined grains, and meat. And what they found was that the women who had these pro-inflammatory diets also reported a higher level of depression. So, again, makes sense. When your body is loaded up with C-reactive protein, when it's loaded up with refined grains and flour and fucking cake and high fructose corn syrup and sugar, and especially like grain-fed meat, could there be anything worse than grain-fed meat? Meat that actually has hormones and antibiotics in it. You're taking in stuff that is, let's say your body is a symphony, right? Essentially, when you're putting meat with all these hormones and, antibiotics in your body, you're taking the symphony and you're walking around and you're just smashing all the instruments, or you just plug in an electric guitar where every single string is out of tune. You crank that bitch up to 11 and you just start playing nonsensical fucking chords and notes while the symphony's trying to play. This is what's happening in your body when you put this bullshit inside your body. You just mess up all of the, essentially all of the harmony of your body, right? And that leads to inflammation. Another study shows the link of lack of exercise, obesity, diet, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, and leaky gut. Essentially what's happening is if you're smoking, we're talking about chemical imbalance in the brain. Could there be any more of a disruption to a chemical balance than loading your brain up with, cigarettes? The chemicals that are in cigarettes, what are there, like over 100 known toxins in cigarettes on top of, fucking GMO grown tobacco, nicotine, that's really a no-brainer right there, no pun intended. Hey, lack of exercise. We're talking about movement, right? You're talking about the actual, transference of, chemicals that are happening when you actually work out, all the endorphins that are produced. Movement is absolutely 100% necessary to fixing depression, to fixing mood. Obesity, again, if you have a high inflammatory diet, there's a good chance you might be dealing with obesity, remember, your fat is also a communicator. Your fat tissue communicates to each other, and it uses hormones in your body to communicate. And again, if you're obese, if you have excessive amounts of adipose tissue that start screwing with the communication pathways in your body, yes, it's going to lead to more inflammation. It's going to lead to more depression. Leaky gut, man. Leaky gut. As we learn more about the gut microbiome, you start to learn that essentially the bacteria in your gut controls everything in your body. It controls so much. It controls what food you crave. If you ever just have like an insane sugar craving, this is why keto people or people on like low carb diets who don't actually who only starve themselves of sugar but don't also refeed with like good healthy fruits and things like sweet potatoes or something a little bit sweet to kind of balance out that those sugar bugs. You crave sugar. It's your gut bacteria. Your gut bacteria is telling you what you crave. What was I saying? The people on the low carb diets, they don't just binge on fruits. They binge on fucking cake and donuts and ice cream, high fructose corn syrup products just loaded with high amounts of sugar because their body is literally craving so much sugar and so much glucose because you never did away with the bad bugs. You just tried to starve them out. You never reseeded with the right herbs, you never cleaned up the gut with bone broth. You just said, I'm going to starve my body of glucose, and that the sugar bacteria starts pulling in just the worst forms of fucking glucose, right? And let's also not forget serotonin. Serotonin is the chemical in your brain that literally makes you happy. It's the happy chemical. It's impossible to be depressed if you have adequate amounts of serotonin in your body, in your brain. Okay? And guess where serotonin comes from? It does not come from the serotonin fairy. It doesn't come from a fucking needle. It doesn't come from, smoke. It comes from your gut. Serotonin, 90% of the serotonin that ends up in your brain is made in your gut. I believe in your small intestines. Could be wrong. Could be the large intestines. Somewhere in your gut, though, serotonin is made. How is serotonin made? Serotonin is made by your gut bacteria using precursor ingredients, for instance, tryptophan, the amino acid. We've all heard of tryptophan, Thanksgiving turkeys, okay? But tryptophan is also found in fruits. It's found in vegetables. I believe it's found in pineapple. So you don't have to eat a fucking full turkey to get tryptophan. You just have to find the right foods that have that amino acid. You eat that, and then your body will start making serotonin. This is actually proven to be more effective than these SSRI drugs, these serotonin reuptake inhibitors, more powerful than antidepressants, more powerful than anti-anxiety medication. By the way, the anti-anxiety medication is the medication that's driving people fucking crazy. A lot of these mass murdering, mass shooting fucking monsters they found this anti-anxiety medications in their blood. So yes, dude, absolutely. Diet is 100% in play when it comes to depression. Granted, I get it, okay? Diet is not going to, erase the memory that you may have had from when you were a kid, whatever it is. A lot of people were depressed because of family issues, whatever stemmed in your, in your childhood psyche that's still affecting you as an adult. You're right. A fucking apple a day isn't going to keep those bad thoughts away, but good food will keep your brain focused on more happier things. It's impossible not to. If you have enough serotonin floating around in your brain, you're going to have happier thoughts. You're going to literally operate with a completely different operating system. This all can be done. And a lot of people who are depressed don't even have that kind of childhood trauma. In fact, a lot of people who are depressed have better lives than you could even imagine. How many of these documentaries and these studies have to come out that show that the poorest people in the world are actually markedly higher as far as happiness goes, are much happier than people who have the most stuff in the world. I promise you, if you go to the Upper East Side, Manhattan, and you walk between like on 5th Avenue or Madison or whatever it is, and you walk between like 61st Street and 78th Street, you're going to see some of the richest people in the country. You're going to see some of the richest people in the world. And you're also going to see some of the most upset, some of the saddest people in the world. Those people are the most unhappy people in the world. How unhappy are they? They have to go shopping every single day at fucking, you name it, right? They have to go get the newest purse, the newest shoes, the newest hat, the newest bat. I'm talking about, it does sound like I'm only talking about women. What do guys buy? New cars, boats, bigger apartments, nicer suits. Not that there's anything wrong with having that stuff, but a lot of times people buy that stuff because they're so incredibly unhappy that they turn to material goods to make them temporarily happy. You'll find probably the most amount of psychoactive drugs are being sold up in these wealthy neighborhoods. But then you go to like these just poor, desolate areas around the world where they don't deal with American exceptionalism, or they don't even have TVs to see what are the Kardashians doing or what's Trump talking about or any of this nonsense. They happen to be some of the happiest people in the world. Why? Because they fall back on things like community, love, family, religion. Not that I'm, trying to push religion on people, but these different inherent virtues are fostered by things outside of material goods. So when you look at a person like Anthony Bourdain or fucking Kate Spade, who, again, a lot of these rich women are wearing her purses and her shoes or whatever, they have everything in the world, and yet they could not deal with being alive. How is that? I mean, how does that make any sense? How is calling the suicide hotline going to help you? If you have everything in the world and you've reached the highest levels of your career and you have won every fight and you've bought the dream house, you've accomplished all your goals, you've traveled the world, you've had the best job anybody could ever imagine, you've brought happiness to so many people, how is calling the suicide hotline going to help you? I don't get it. It's such an empty gesture to me. It's like when people get mad about when people write thoughts and prayers online. You're right. It's kind of stupid. At the same time, so is posting the suicide hotline. I don't even know what they talk about on the suicide hotline. You want to not commit suicide? You want to not be depressed? Do the most simple, basic things to fix your life. Okay? Like taking care of your health, getting rid of every pro-inflammatory food in your house that you can. Quit drinking, quit doing drugs, exercise, movement. Some of the best health advice I heard was from this guy, Art Devaney, who is a little too paleo for me, but does make some good points. If you're depressed, you know what you do? You fast and you lift heavy weights, okay? Or you fast and you go exercise. You do those two things, your body is going to be in a completely different place. You want to not feel bad? Literally, go find a fucking papaya. Go cut up a papaya, put it in a little bowl, and walk around and eat it. Because all that fiber, all those phytonutrients, the papain helping your digestion. Oh my God. When you start digesting better, you start breaking down your food better. You start taking out all the nutrients out of the food that you're eating, all the essential amino acids, all the omegas, all the phytonutrients. When you start actually absorbing those actual chemicals in your body, a chemical imbalance becomes more favorable to you. Yeah, I'm imbalanced. I'm imbalanced with the good chemicals. I've got an imbalance of serotonin in my brain. I have way too much serotonin in my brain. What do? Oh, you know what you do if you're really depressed? Because I learned this in India, okay? Suffering is the result of obsessive self-centric thinking, okay? Basically what that means is your suffering comes because you can't stop thinking about all of your own problems. So if you want to get over yourself, you know what you do? You go help other people. Go serve in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about starting a business. I'm not talking about, whatever you got to do. Give a homeless person $10. Go, volunteer at a soup kitchen. Go, help a poor family run their errands. Walk an old lady across the street. Whatever you got to do. But I promise you, when you start serving other people, when you start doing a thing for other people and you start looking outside yourself, on top of changing your diet, it really is impossible to be depressed. Even if you've been depressed your whole life, when you make the conscious effort and you say, no more, I'm going to do everything I can to get over this. Mentally, yeah, it's an uphill battle. You got to fight it every day. But physically, you could fucking start that right now, dude. Just eat the right stuff. A plant-based diet. You don't have to be vegan. You don't have to be annoying. Just fucking eat more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, eat a ton of beans, eat a ton of green leafy vegetables, eat some real good fruit, eat blueberries, eat bananas, eat papaya. These are fruits with high, strong nutrient profiles. You start eating this stuff and you start getting out all the omega-6s, all of the fucking trans fatty acids, all of the palm oil, all the potato chip grease, all the fried bullshit, all the grain-fed animal fats. If you eat grass-fed, that's a totally different story. Grass-fed meat has a lot more nutrition in it, but it's very expensive. That's why I don't try to excessively push it. It's much easier to be plant-based, maybe have grass-fed every so often, but get rid of the fucking grain-fed, even if it's organic dairy, get rid of that shit, man, because it's driving your body fucking crazy. Your body's literally fighting itself, and the science is right here that shows you. Here's another one, for example, the inflammation-induced anhedonia. Inflammation-induced anhedonia, endotoxin reduces ventral striatum responses to reward. Basically, what anhedonia is the ability to get not be able to get excited when things excite you. Like if your favorite team wins the championship, that doesn't make you happy anymore. And what they're saying is endotoxin reduces that response. Endotoxins are mostly found in meats. So, and this study basically just goes through these observations of people eating high amounts of endotoxins and then being less and less excited about things. That should make them excited. You should get excited over little things. Little things should make you so happy and excited. Sometimes, man, like if you're really hitting that good feeling juice. Sometimes you just wake up, man, and you smile, because you did it. You woke up. You get another day. You get another day, man. If you play your cards right, you could be here for 80, 90, 100 years. If you play your cards right. Isn't that exciting? So if you're in your 30s and 40s or 20s or teens and you're like, man, it hasn't worked out for me. Well, you still have like 50 years to turn it around. Every day is a struggle. None of this is ever going to be easy, man. And the second it starts getting easy, it's just going to get hard all over again. You don't have to give up, man. You don't have to give up. Just do the little things. Less inflammation in the diet. There's no more easier thing. And then sit down, fucking have a gratitude journal. Nothing will make you feel better than just being grateful. Like, I have a gratitude journal. I do it every single day. Every single day, I sit down and write 10 things that I'm grateful for, and it could just be the dumbest shit. I don't overthink it. I try to have it done in like a minute. I try to write 10 things down in 60 seconds. And, I write anything down. I'm grateful that I woke up today. I'm grateful for not being homeless. I'm grateful for, a good show last night. I'm grateful for amazing food in my kitchen. I'm grateful to have family, just every little thing. You could be like, I'm grateful that I put my air conditioning in and it didn't fall out the window. When you start loading your brain up with gratitude, again, the serotonin starts flooding in and you feel fucking great, especially if you're eating the right stuff. It's impossible to be depressed. So without harping on too much on the same circular idea, if you have any more questions about this, what I would tell you to do is I would tell you to go to nutritionfacts.org, go into the search bar and type in mental health, and then watch all those videos that come up. Because you're going to see all of the science that I barely scratched the surface on here that's showing you there is a scientific link to cure depression and your diet. Okay? If you want even more references, go to PubMed, go to Google. Just go to your freaking grocery store and buy all the fruits and vegetables you can. Fucking, if you can't afford it, get a credit card or take a loan out and get a fucking Vitamix and start putting all of this stuff together, pre-blend it so it's pre-digested. That way your body doesn't have to strain any more than it already is to digest. You get fully digested nutrients. It's only a matter of time before you will physically lift yourself up out of depression. And just know, if anyone's got your back, the Holistic A-Hole 100% does. This is why I'm here. I wouldn't be here just talking shit if I didn't truly believe in this very specific message. I come on here and I talk a lot about, health. I don't know if I can help somebody get a 6-pack or, get bigger calves or increase their bench press or get a nice ass or whatever. But I can certainly help you get out of any mental funk due to a bad diet. I certainly 100% can. And even if you're in the worst position you've ever been in your life, even if you've lost your job, even if your family has left you, even if, you've lost your kids and, everyone close to you is gone, all your friends turn their back on you, just know, man, there's still plenty of time to turn it around. Plenty of time. Where do you start? Start on the building blocks of what makes you a person. Your cells. What do your cells need? Nutrition. Build your temple with good bricks, and you'll be happy as fuck. Thank you guys for listening, man. I hope this really touched you. I hope this really, if you thought maybe some of this was quackery, maybe it opened your eyes. I hope you take something out of this, especially if you deal with depression and suicidal thoughts. I hope this reaches you at the right time, and you heard what I had to say. And even if you disagree with me, it's totally fine. Feel free to shoot me a message, because I know this is a very sensitive subject to a lot of people, and I hope I didn't offend you. I might have offended some people, but just know that I'm here for good. And connect with me online, man. Go to my YouTube channel, Holistic A-Hole, Facebook page, Holistic A-Hole, Twitter @Holistic A-Hole, Instagram @Holistic A-Hole, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a nice review on iTunes. I will catch you guys on the next one. Have a great holistic day. Peace.